This might be the most important podcast episode you watch or listen to in your entire life. I'm not kidding. This is a complete game changer, and I'm so excited to talk about this because this is the cornerstone of this entire podcast. This is the cornerstone of anything good in life, whether it's fulfillment, success, manifestation, spiritual growth, personal development. This is what you need. And what I find is so problematic when I coach people, when I am interacting with my community, it is a plague. It is an endemic, and it is a lack of self-trust. So in this podcast episode, I'm going to teach you how to trust your intuition and why we are taught not to trust our intuition so that you can flip the script and start living from an authentic, confident, decision-making place when you set out to take action with the intentions you're going to set after you finish watching this video, because it is going to be a good one, and I'm so excited. So let's begin. I have my notes on my phone here. So what if leading yourself with confidence was the key to changing your entire life? Think about it. Think about how you show up in your life, and if it's coming from a place that is seeking external validation, like people pleasing, or just a lack of confidence, or a lack of self-doubt, or imposter syndrome. This is the key to overriding everything. And we are taught not to trust ourselves simply because it takes us away from our power. It takes us away from our intuition and our inner wisdom. And your intuition is the key to manifesting with ease and precision. And that is the whole point of this podcast. So this might be the most important episode in the entire podcast, just because it's literally the cornerstone, like I said. So why does this matter? So most people aren't taught to trust their intuition. They're taught not to trust their intuition. And this is the whole point of my podcast. So I could help people heal from this, because I want us all to win. And I want us to do it from a place that is in alignment with our highest good and our purpose. And so that we may feel fulfilled and guided and supported in life. Even if the people around you aren't supportive, you can rely on yourself, and you could go within and validate yourself and live from a place of love and grace and compassion. And that is what self-trust is. And self-trust is so the key. So we are taught to not seek that internal wisdom. It is always external to us, like via our teachers, and we're taught how to use logic over our natural instincts. So even from like an elementary level, we are taught not to trust our instincts, and we are even taught to second guess them, and to always be anxious and in a form of competition and comparison. And this all works to crush our self-trust, because it damages our self-image, and we're not able to tune into that wisdom that is so validating and confirming, and essentially keeps us from our true nature, from our authentic selves, and from our power. So this is all designed and orchestrated on purpose to cut you off from your power. And that is why you lack self-trust. This is why you're unable to make confident decisions, why you seek external validation, why you have anxiety and analysis paralysis and self-sabotage, and you get stuck in procrastination and perfectionism. And this is all tied to a lack of self-trust. And it is something that is so common. You are not alone. This is what all my coaching clients talk about. This is when I'm talking with people and they all have their own, story, their own background, their own circumstances. And there's a lot of like contextual things that go into, coaching someone and doing it from an intuitive place. And it always comes down to a lack of self-trust. Like, it is an endemic, like I said. So my whole coaching is centered on self-trust inside my community, during my one-on-ones, to help bring you back to yourself, and so that you could grow from a place where you don't need even me to teach you what to do. I'm just there to guide you, because you are steering the ship. You are steering your soul. It is your destiny to realize your purpose here and your infinite potential, and you could only do that from a place of self-trust and inner knowing and being guided by the divine. And you need to be tuned into your intuition and have that self-trust to take action and to follow it into the unknown. And the unknown is what scares people the most when it comes to self-trust and lacking that confident decision making, because none of us know what we're doing. But if you are tapped into the divine, you are so guided and protected that you have so much confidence that it's almost coming from outside of you. You realize that your guides are with you, that the universe always has your higher good at heart and wants to support you in your dreams and your endeavors. And it's always leading you to a higher path and a higher good and giving you signs as guidance that people are so closed off from that it's keeping them stuck in a perpetual loop of self-sabotage and misery. And it's just a vortex. It's horrible. So we could leverage self-trust and tap into that inner wisdom to pull us out of it and to really change our lives instantly without having to work hard to get out of the vortex. And it's simple, but it's not easy. And I've had to work many years in therapy to develop self-trust, but it really is what it comes back to. And just know that you are divinely guided, you are divinely protected, and you figure it out no matter what. You have made it through every single day of your life unscathed for the most part. You have made it and figured it out along the way, trusting unconsciously your internal knowing. So you're already doing it. It's just a matter of utilizing it and trusting it to take you into a more higher timeline that serves you better and is more in alignment with your higher good and your purpose here on life in this lifetime, so that your soul can evolve and you can learn the lessons you need to learn, but also doing it from a place of ease and joy and creativity and abundance and all these good feelings that we are here to experience. We're not here to be miserable the entire time. And it is because we are cut off from ourselves. And once we start to tap into our internal knowing and our internal guidance system, as well as our self-image, that's when we take a hold of our life and our destiny. So we want to learn how to recognize this and to trust it. And then doing so strengthens your intuition. So once you start to open yourself up to it, it automatically starts to expand and you become more aware of how the universe is guiding you so that you could gain external validation from something that's coming from within that is only being shown to you in your reality from the divine, from the universe, and cutting out all the noise, all the external, validation that comes from people pleasing and from people's opinions and from their unhelpful comments and from even their envy and their jealousy that you were doing something with your lives and you're trusting yourself to do it and you're taking action and they're stuck in inaction and lacking of self-trust and to live in that box that society tries to force us into. And so I want you to spread this and to tell people like this is something that is life-changing once we start to tune out the noise, like the news and external beliefs from our peers and our family and just a lot of limiting paradigms that are just thrown at us from every angle. And so once we start to protect our energies and impose boundaries, then we start to cut ourselves off from distractions and we have no choice but to go within and to gain that guidance that comes from within. So people are conditioned to prioritize their logic over inner knowing, whether it's from society, school, upbringing, a fear of being wrong or making mistakes, past experiences that came from ignoring your intuition. I want to make that clear. This is one of the biggest talking points that I could bring up is like, I want you to think about what happened when you ignored your intuition. If you have a hard time or trusting your intuition and you're afraid to take action and to rely on yourself and to show up in integrity and to show up for yourself on a daily basis, it is a lot worse. Like the circumstances of being stuck and eating shit essentially all the time because you're just not listening to that higher calling is you're stuck in perpetuity of living a life of misery or being stuck in relationships that aren't good for you or friendships that aren't good for you or ending up in dangerous situations that could have been avoided if you listened to your gut instincts. And there's so many times that our intuition is screaming at us so that we avoid misery and that we avoid injury and death and illness. Like our body screams at us and our intuition is part of that process as well, where there's so much information being relayed to us that we are constantly ignoring and taught to just, it's pretty much like being gaslit by society all the time that your intuition is like anxiety. I get that all the time. I'm an intuitive development coach. I've been working on this for 30 years and people are like, your intuition is just anxiety. I'm like, first of all, I take medicine for my anxiety. Okay. I go to therapy. I have a psychiatrist. I do all the things. I make sure that I am primed all the time. And it's not anxiety. I think I freaking know the difference between anxiety and intuition at this point, being an expert in this and teaching others to listen to it. And that's been going on for centuries. Women in particular have been constantly invalidated when it comes to their intuition, and women's intuition is so strong. And that's why I want to help women unlock it via my community and via my services, because this is life-changing and it is healing on an ancestral level, seriously. So I only want to support that. This is why I'm teaching it, because we have been gaslit for centuries, because it is a way to subdue us, point blank. And I'll probably talk about this more in other episodes, but that is besides the point. And so we need to realize how not following our intuition has hurt us way more than just taking action, and also analyzing the other side of that when we take action on something that we were afraid to do, when we do take action and we do trust ourselves, we do follow that higher calling, we are happier for it. We are receiving all the dopamine rewards that come from it, and the serotonin and all the good feelings that come from taking action, like not wanting to exercise and then exercising and showing up anyway and then feeling so amazing after. There's no such thing as a bad workout. Just like not following your intuition is worse than, just following it and then doing it inaccurately, and then you end up kind of not where you wanted to be, but you're still that much closer than you would have if you stayed stuck. I hope that makes sense. So analyze what it would mean to keep ignoring your intuition and what would happen if you started following your intuition, and just journal on this. Just analyze it and journal and analyze it and see how this is holding you back and how much potential exists when you start to follow your intuition and to trust yourself to take action. And it gets easier the more you take action. And it's so reciprocal and so healing and so magical. I work on this myself. Like, I practice what I preach. And the more I lean into my spirituality and my intuition, the more magical life becomes, the more connected to the divine I become, the more I trust myself and love myself and show up more presently. It is life-changing. And it starts by trusting yourself, and all you have to do is take action. You just have to take one action from your intuition. You do it like an experiment. The next time you become aware of an intuitive download or a ping or a calling or something, just you feel drawn to do something or to go to, say, for like a different way to work, like your brain is just like, yeah, let's go this way. And then you end up meeting with a friend that you haven't seen in decades, and you're driving to work after you had like a 10-minute lively discussion. And you're like, wow, that wouldn't have happened if I didn't follow my intuition. That was amazing. Like, that is the stuff of life. And following our intuition opens up us to those types of situations, whether it's on a smaller scale, like just bumping into an old friend, or to manifesting something incredible with ease where you were dumbfounded by how easy it was. And you were like, oh my God, that's the power that exists. And then you start to do it more and more and more. And it's just so freeing and so healing and validating. And it heals us on an ancestral level. It takes us back, like I said, for centuries, because this is something that we have been taught to ignore on purpose. And I want to help us all heal it, and so that we could all live attuned with that authentic nature, tapped in, present, grounded, confident, empowered. Like, it's so amazing. So once you start taking that plunge, it'll start to, you'll overcome that boundary. The first barrier is the biggest and hardest, and literally you can just step over it. It's like being in a shallow and pretending that you're drowning. Like, there's so many metaphors that I can make that it's just lean into it. That flow when your intuitive hits come in are like so instant and so short. They're like bursts, but they're full of bursts of energy, and they lead to crazy things. Like, have done so many things on an intuitive nudge that I'm like, wow, the result of this is huge. Like, think of Walt Disney when he created Walt Disney or Mickey Mouse, and he was rejected so many times, and he just kept going with it, following that calling and that intuition, and it turned into Disney just from one intuitive nudge. So that these things come from the divine so that we could use these to live our higher calling and to ultimately create and to live a life of joy and creativity and fulfillment. And it's just amazing. Instead of working like 9 to 5, day in, day out, same thing until you die. Like, can you see why we are taught not to trust ourselves and how life-changing it is when we start to take action on those intuitive hits that we all get? We all have. This is all a part of us, and it is begging to be heard. So I hope I'm making my point. This has been great so far. And of course, fear and anxiety gets in the way and overthinking gets in the way, but it's easy to bypass that when it's the second thing that comes up from intuition. Your intuition is always first, and then the fear and doubt starts to creep in. The anxiety starts to creep in, the self-sabotage, the procrastinating habits that come from perfectionism and what people will think. Those are all secondary. Tune out the noise. Detox, put yourself in a supportive environment, do all the things necessary that help you stay focused and you feel supported by, so that it doesn't damage your self-image, it doesn't damage your self-trust. And the anxiety that comes from it will dissipate when you tune out the noise and when you just start taking action. I promise. So what is intuition really? It is the inner guidance system. It is subconscious wisdom that comes from an unconscious place. It is an unconscious process, and it guides us whether we're aware of it or not, or whether we're even willing to acknowledge that we have it. I don't understand why so many people think intuition is fake or it's woo-woo, or it's a lot of men who make these comments to me, and it's sad. But I want you to know that everybody has it. If you're a male, you have it too. You have this divine potential. Everyone, it's a process in our brain. It is connected to our gut via serotonin receptors. Like, I could do a podcast episode on the science behind this, and I probably will, just to make it more convincing for people who come from a more logical decision-making place. But your intuition is still part of that process. It is something that analyzes so much data from so many different places, like past experiences, the information in your current reality in the present moment, anticipating the future, lenses that come from self-sabotage and limiting beliefs. There's so much information that is processed in like a nanosecond by divine intelligence, received through your intuition and sent to your body through signals and emotions that are giving you feedback to take actions by, and you're following it no matter what. And when it's unconscious, it's leading you to a less empowered timeline, because you can harness this. That is the whole point of alchemy. Intuitive alchemy is harnessing this so you could embrace your highest timeline. But your soul is here to learn on, a very unconscious level that it is not up to us to understand, and I'm not going to get into it right now, but it is guiding you through these life lessons from the place that you're currently at. So if you're on a low level place, it's going to more or less show you the same thing from that more low level place, and it drives you until you become aware of it and you make different choices. So no matter what, in order to get unstuck, we have to tap into this, and we have to be trusting. We have to trust ourselves in order to make empowered decisions and to make different choices. So to become aware and to expand our consciousness and to tap into this is all part and parcel of becoming, more intuitive and more spiritual and more conscious of, where you're going and how you're steering the ship. So if you're doing it blindfolded, your intuition is still guiding you. It's like the ocean, but it's doing it in a way that's trying to get you to move on to the next level. So if you keep going without becoming aware of what it's trying to tell you, and it's screaming at you and you keep ignoring it, we come back to that concept of what happens when you ignore your intuition, and it's not good and it sucks until you learn the lesson and you move up to a higher timeline. So when you become aware of it with intention and with awareness and mindfulness and consciousness, and you make the unconscious conscious, you can point it to wherever you want and then calibrate it to that frequency, and it will guide you there. And that's how you harness this, and that's how you take this power and utilize it, by just expanding your awareness. But you have to be willing to face the dark, to face the unknown. And a lot of people are scared of themselves. So it constantly comes back to this concept of self-trust and nurturing that commitment to yourself, to show up for yourself, to make different choices, to love yourself. So you do things that are more serving your higher good, like eating healthy, exercise, moving your body, meditating, doing all these wholesome activities that nurture your soul, so that you can develop that self-trust, so that you can love yourself how you were intended to love, without needing that external validation, that you are always with you and you are the one who has got your back, and you are the only person with you your entire life. So you might as well build that loving relationship with yourself, because that is how you will develop the self-trust, and then it will just keep feeding itself the more you do it. So it will be life-changing for you. Absolutely life-changing. So we want to become aware of like our gut feelings, our senses. We do that by expanding our awareness. Like I said, we expand our body awareness. My favorite way is to meditate and to do body scanning every night, every day. So I become more aware of and in control of my own body, which ultimately harnesses my reality, and I become more disciplined and more focused. And then the intentions have more power behind it, and then the things that I'm manifesting manifest a lot faster because of that focus and that intention. And these all just like cascade outwards from a place of self-trust, a deep self-trust, and the compassion and grace that comes with it, so that if you make a mistake or you fail, quote unquote, and it hurts and you're like, why isn't this working? It is working for your higher self. And this will help carry you through things and make it easier and less painful. And you'll have more resilience because of this self-trust. So even if things are difficult and challenging, because that's part of life too, you know, you could carry yourself through it, and that you will figure it out till you get to the other side. That is how powerful this stuff is. So we tune into our body, because our body is signaling to us via our senses and our emotions. And that is the data that is coming from inwards, that is being activated by our outer reality. And it is this constant feedback loop. So your universe, your reality, is always giving you signs, like repeating sequences, patterns, life lessons. Certain people keep coming into your life, even though it's something, maybe a cycle that has to end. It's the more you expand your awareness, the more you become aware of how the universe speaks to you and how your intuition analyzes that data and produces like options for you to take based off of the information you're getting from your environment. So it speaks in patterns and subtle cues and repeating sequences, and you will become more aware of how it is speaking to you as you develop this awareness and expand your consciousness. And it is constant, like it is everywhere. And it is so validating and so supportive, even if it can be overwhelming at times. But it just gives you more and more clarity, and the path just gets more and more refined the more you move in alignment with your intuition, and it calibrates, and you could see clearly where you're going and what's going to happen. And it's crazy. Like, it is amazing when you start to tune into that. So start obviously by going within, if I haven't made that clear, and start to develop that body awareness and using body scanning to become more aware of your sensations and those intuitive hits wherever they come from. It depends on your psychic ability, essentially. And the only way to become aware of it is to start tuning in, to just start scanning your body and realizing where you hold tension, and then tuning into what comes up for you when you are in that moment of stillness, and practicing mindfulness and awareness to expand your capacity to hold the stuff that comes up for you so that you're not running away from it. You're not shoving it down. You're not trying to will it away or to appease other people. You are sitting with it and you are processing these things properly, and it is so healing, and it just activates that self-love. And this is the work. And if it's hard, just know that it is worth it, and that tuning into that that place of compassion and self-trust will help immensely speed up these processes. If this is the point that you are at, I want this to resonate from whatever level that you're currently at. So if it's difficult for you, that is totally okay. Some people breeze through this easily, like I do, but I still struggle even after 10 years of therapy and doing the work and being really invested in my own personal development and spiritual growth. Like, I still struggle and it's still difficult for me. And right now, recording this podcast episode is a part of that, and overcoming my own wounds, but trusting myself to show up and doing it anyway, because I am worthwhile of what I desire. I am worthy of the life that I want to live. And this is how it is telling me to go about it. And I have to be willing to overcome that resistance. And this is your breakthrough. This self-trust piece will change your life and will be the breakthrough that you seek. So pay attention to your body and be so graceful and compassionate with yourself for whatever comes up. And if you need to work on that or take time to work on it, that's okay too. This is all part of the process. So how do you rebuild trust in yourself? Like awareness, noticing when you ignore or override your intuition and what came up for you. Why did you resist? And then analyzing, what is that resistance about? Where is it coming from? The beliefs you have that are coming up. Start to become more aware. And if you need to keep a journal, it is so helpful. So experiment and practice small intuitive choices daily. So following those nudges, those hints, those pulls, your gut instinct, and making a game out of it, and really approaching this from a fun and curious place so that you start to learn that the unknown isn't scary. The darkness isn't scary. It's just you. This is your reality. It is part of your brain. What you see externally is your brain, your own brain projecting what you see and what you smell and what you hear and what everything you sense. So this is you. Everything you see is a reflection of you and your fears. So if you are approaching yourself from a place of self-trust and compassion and grace, the darkness does not scare you anymore. You realize it's just part of you, and we integrate that wholeness, and everything just starts to come together and starts to align so beautifully once you start to experiment more and expand your awareness and silence the noise. That is probably the biggest thing. So stop watching the news, give yourself a limit on social media, or if you're on social media all the time, curate it so it's only supporting the things that you want to believe or the feel-good emotions you want to have. You don't need distraction. You don't need to get into arguments online. Just feel things, almost brainwash yourself to live the way that you want to live in every capacity. So train your algorithm to be positive and supportive. Surround yourself with friends who encourage you and who aren't jealous of you. Get out of relationships that are harming you instead of helping you grow into who you're meant to be. This is all part of the process, and cultivating that sense of self-trust, because every time you ignore your intuition, or you stay in a place that isn't good for you, or you people please, you damage that self-trust, and it affects your life. It affects your health. It affects your mental health. So I want you to really be aware of how your intuition is guiding you through the good and the bad, and how it's reinforcing both, and to realize that your environment impacts your self-trust, your choices impact your self-trust, your lack of action and discipline and integrity disturbs your self-trust. So we do things to heal that self-trust and to reinforce those confident decision-making skills and communication skills and boundary skills and energy replenishment and self-care and self-love. These are all things that'll help you cultivate more self-love and more self-trust, and vice versa. So become aware of your body, learn to tune in and to be compassionate and graceful for whatever comes up for you, because it will be difficult at times. But this is all part of the evolution. This is the dark night of the soul for every spiritual awakening. And it becomes easier and more from a higher place when you go through stuff that is challenging and really icky, because you are doing it from an observation level and applying a spiritual lens to it, than you would when you're really grounded in 3D and you feel like life is pummeling you and you have no choice and no one to protect you and life just sucks. Can you see how this spiral comes from like this damning place that is coming from our own sense of self? So when we learn to self-trust and we learn to self-love and we take the small steps, the easiest steps, the first steps to get there, life will get better and better and better and better. So journal, reflect, track, take experiments, do what feels good and meet yourself where you're at and do what's easier. Follow your natural inclinations, follow things with a sense of curiosity, and this will be so healing for you in so many ways, because like I said, this is the cornerstone of life. This is the cornerstone of fulfillment and purpose and alignment and joy, and you can't do it if you don't trust yourself. And that comes from like self-image issues and self-confidence and loathing yourself and doing things to appease others instead of like addressing your own needs. So do energy checks, tune into your energy levels and your moods on a daily basis and start to improve them if it's looking moody or if it's looking just not good or you're depressed. Like start to do things that, honor your own needs or feel good to help get yourself out of that. And I know it's so hard, but it starts where you're at, and it starts like with whatever's easiest. If you're super depressed, brush your teeth. If you're living life, then you're manifesting crazy things and you're taking intuitive action on a daily basis. And that's where you're at. And people do the healing and they do the journey and they're able to access this from a place that is empowering you from whatever timeline you're currently on. So I don't want this to be like, oh, well, this is so much easier for so-and-so because they've done the work, and it's easy for you to do because you've done the work. And it's like, yes, but it started from a place that came from compassion and self-trust and my values, like showing up for myself. And it was either that or suffering. And if I wanted to suffer for the rest of my life, it was going to take me out. I couldn't live like that. And it came to a very dark place because I wasn't doing the things that were good for my mental health. And that's where my healing started, was starting to talk to myself better and believing more empowering things and challenging perceptions that are ingrained in me that came from people who are intent on misunderstanding me or are just damaged themselves. And the healing comes from that self-love and that self-trust, no matter how deep you are or how dark it is. So you have to be willing, first and foremost, to change in order to do this. And if you're not ready to change, then that's where you're at. And this will benefit you whenever you're ready. So yeah, your intuition is the key to winning life. It is the hack. It is for faster decision making, more alignment, less stress. I've told you what it means to not listen to your intuition and what happens when you start to listen to your intuition, and letting go of perfectionism and people pleasing and self-sabotage and limiting beliefs and limiting paradigms or relationships that just are way overdue and expired. So your intuition isn't always about being right or even the logical process. It is just following those nudges and those calls. And the more you do that, the more aware you'll become of how your intuition speaks to you, and you'll become more fluent in it the more you follow it. And then you will start to tap into like psychic ability, and it'll be crazy. And I just saw 33333 on my timer. So that's it. So if you can start to follow your intuition today, what would that look like? And if you want to work more on this and you want to work with me and really tap into this potential, I highly suggest that you join my Intuitive Women's Sacred Circle. The link is in the comments or the description, depending on what platform this is. I really like for you to join me because this has the potential to change your life. And I wouldn't be able to do this if I didn't have the support that I had, like with my therapist and my psychiatrist and all the paraprofessionals, and even investing in my own mentors and personal development. It was an investment, and I had to be willing to take it and to get that support and that help. And I wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. I want to make that clear that you will need support in one form or another. And if you want me to do it, I would be honored to guide you. And I would love for you to join. And otherwise, I hope you have a great day. This was super healthy and amazing discussion. And I hope that it had plenty of aha moments for you or light bulb moments for you. And if they did, please let me know in the comments if that was helpful, if this was helpful, if you intend on trusting yourself after this. If this was game changing in any way for you, I want to know. So please leave it in the comments and I will meet you in the next episode. Bye.